President Trump's historic decision to sit down with Kim Jong-un has led to the unthinkable complimentary headlines from the left-wing national media. ABC News wrote, on North Korea's Donald Trump unconventional style could succeed where others have failed. The New York Times, Trump's meeting with Kim Jong-un is yet another pledge to do what nobody else can do. Even CNN's Erin Burnett closed her show saying if President Trump can truly solve this problem, that would be going down as a great president. And there's no way around that. And that is the reality here. Joining me now, Gordon Chang, an expert on North Korea and China and author of the book Nuclear Showdown. Pleasure to have you with us. You're the guy on this subject. You know more than anyone, truly. But Erin Burnett, for once, may have been right?
Oh, certainly. You know, a succession of American presidents have tried to solve this problem. They have all failed in different ways, you know, liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans. The one thing that President Trump has done, and he doesn't get credit for this, but over a sustained basis, he has put North Korea at the top of his list of foreign policy challenges. And he's actually willing to exercise American political will and American national power in order to solve this. We haven't solved it yet, of course, but you can see the makings of a solution. And so, therefore, I think we should be relatively optimistic. Very difficult challenge, but relatively optimistic nonetheless.
You know, if any other American president over the last 30 or 40 years had even thought of doing this, they would have spent about 2 years thinking about it and maybe back channel conversations and so forth, talks to have. Trump's the kind of guy who sort of picks up the phone and seizes an opportunity when he saw it, and he put Kim on the spot.
Well, he certainly did. You know, Kim is apparently talking about being committed to denuclearization. That's what the South Koreans said. Well, Trump is saying, look, okay, we'll sit down and talk by the end of May, and we're going to see whether you're serious or not. And the other thing that Trump did, and he doesn't get credit for this either, is what he is saying to Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, is, I'm not going to allow the North Koreans to drive a wedge between South Korea and the United States. That's what Kim is trying to do here. And so Trump is saying, look, I'm not going to allow that to happen on my watch. This is critical. We need to have Seoul and Washington on the same page. Trump has been very good in making sure that the two states don't diverge from each other.
But you can never trust the North Koreans because they have lied and cheated before. 1991, 1994, they've been doing it all along.
Yeah, well, certainly. And even into the 1980s in the discussions with the International Atomic Energy Agency, right. I don't think the North Koreans are telling the truth. I do think, though, that they are being hurt by Trump's sanctions and the UN sanctions, and so they want some relief, and that's why there is this initiative. And that's a good thing. You know, what we are seeing, for instance, is that Office Number 39, which is North Korea's, the family's slush fund, is now running out of cash, according to Chinese sources. And some people are saying that the country is running out of foreign exchange, the hard currency, and that'll occur by October. That's according to South Korean sources. That means Kim's in trouble because he doesn't have money to launch missiles, detonate nukes, or engage in this gift politics, which is buying the loyalty of senior regime members with gifts.
Where does China fit into this?
Well, China right now is pretty much a bystander, which is fascinating because what you have is the United States talking to North Korea directly. You know, Beijing liked to be in the middle of this because that gave them power, and that meant that whenever we had a problem with North Korea, we would give concessions to China on Taiwan, South China Sea, trade, whatever. Now they're being cut out of the conversation. That, I think, is important. And that's an important innovation in American foreign policy. We just do it ourselves.
And China should be cut out of it anyway, because they never capitulated to our, please do this, please do that, then our demands, do this. I mean, they just ignored us.
Well, during the presidency of George W. Bush, he put Beijing at the center of the six-party talks. What he was trying to do was basically engage China, bring it into the international system. So he thought that that was more important than actually denuclearizing the North Koreans. So we got a very arrogant Beijing and a nuked up North Korea. That policy just didn't work. Trump is saying, none of that for me.
All right. Gordon Chang, good to see you. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks, Greg.